Okay, so here's the game plan, and this is where you guys are going to be like, I'm sure you're going to agree with me. Okay? Well, because I'm definitely officially assigning the review assignment today, but I'm also covering DHCP, so that means I'm also assigning the DHCP homework assignment today. The next two topics that I plan on covering can all be done in one day. So I'm not going to give you 2 more homework assignments next week. I'll do next week. What I'll do is next week is our whole lab time. So remember I said I'm going to So today I'm going to finish the review, go do DHCP, assign those 2 homework assignments. Next week will be lab time. The week after you'll have 2 more homework assignments. Okay, so just I'm going to try to stagger that out anyway. The due dates will always be staggered. You won't have 2 assignments due on the same day, so there'll be longer time.
But we'll be able to do the second one a little before due, so we'll have a little bit of a break. That's good.
Yeah, so that's the game plan. So next week is definitely going to be lab time. I'll post it on the website. This week is I'm going to finish up the review, do DHCP, assign 2 homework assignments. And I was looking at that yesterday when I was looking at my lectures, and I went, oh crap. I could assign 2 more homework assignments next week for them. I better give them lab time.
Thank you. Thank you for the break. Thank you for the 4 homework assignments. Thank you for the break.
Yeah, I kind of understood that, Steve. I understood what you were thanking me for. Okay, so I'm going to start by just kind of wrapping up the last week when I kind of didn't do. I'm not going to wrap it up. I'm just going to do the whole thing because it's such a short little mini piece that to have to split that up into 2 videos is kind of, and I don't remember exactly where I left off last week. But what I was looking at last week was the reviewing the quota. Okay, so again, I'm just going to start from scratch. I'll probably just delete whatever portion of quota I had out on the website from last week. So if we look at reminding you what it is, okay, it allows you to set restrictions on disk space, okay, or as I noted, you can also simply enable it and then monitor disk space so you don't actually have to set restrictions. But you can set restrictions, and that restriction can be based on bytes of storage used. It can also be based on inodes, the number of files used. Okay, so quota does need to be installed. I'll just kind of type commands in Notepad because it's already installed on the machine that I'm kind of reviewing this on. Where's Notepad? How come I don't have Notepad pinned to the start menu? The first command would be, again, your zipper install. I'll make that font bigger in a second. You would do zipper install quota. Okay, and once it's installed, you would also need to, oops. This has been happening all day. My fingers are just not working right. So again, I did indicate, and I know last week it was on the video, and Steve pointed out that I had a typo. So let's see if I can get it right this time. At the end of the line of the entry in the fstab file that identifies the petition that you want to enable the quotas on, you need to include one of 2 values. I'm going to start with just putting here user quota. Okay, if you just put user quota at the end, then that will, and when you're done, you could simply do a mount-o remount, and then the petition, whatever the petition name is, okay, let's say home, okay? So if you do it this way, then you're not getting journalized quotas, but it still works, okay? Journalized quotas, the entries, the database, the quota database gets updated from the journals, which is faster than having it updated by examining all the files on the drive. So that's the advantage of using the journalized entries. To specify journalized quotas, the value that you'd have to put here is pretty much what I have up there, USRJQUOTA equals a quota.user, JQFMT equals VFSV0. I think I got that right, yes? This, however, you would need, so instead of, you can't just remount, you would need to reboot, okay, after you add that entry. And then after you do that, you can just basically do a mount grep home and take a peek at what settings have been applied. So just to confirm that the quotas actually work. Steve, you had a major issue last semester. It just wouldn't work, and it was was something odd. But the point is that just because you reboot doesn't mean that it works. Okay, make sure that you, if you do mount, grep, home, okay, you would see the journalized, depending on again which setting you actually added to fstab, you'd see that value in the output to this command. If you don't see it, then the quotas have not been enabled on that volume, and go figure out why. Okay.
Can you go back to
The notepad file.
for a second?
Okay, so again, once you have actually added the entry to the whichever entry to the fstab file, and you've ensured that that petition actually has been mounted with that support, then before you do need to, in essence, create the database. Okay, and the command to create the database, and again, I'm focusing primarily on establishing quotas for users, not groups. So the command would actually be, what is it, quota, Q-U-O-T-A, check hyphen C-U, and again, /home. C stands for create, U stands for users. If you wanted to create a database for groups as well, then you would include G there as well, and then you could do quota management for groups. I've just never played with that, allowing multiple users that exist in one group to have a certain amount of storage on the drive. I've not played with it, but it is a feature that you could use on the system. Yes?
So the first one, by adding that parameter, user quota,
That enables the drive to support quotas.
that enables it to
Okay,
support quotas, and
this
then
just
the general-
confirms that it was enabled properly.
Yep.
This actually creates the database. Hasn't turned anything on yet, but has created the database. The database, remember, is going to be stored at the root of the petition that you enable this on. So home is the petition that I enable this on. A quota.user is the actual database. Okay? If there was a group entry, it would also say a quota.group. Okay, so again, I did not create a group database, so we're only seeing one of those two entries there. And that would get created with this command, okay, the quota check command with the -cu. Okay.
No, the question I had was, so the first one, if you just put user quota, enables quarters, but the second one,
This is this creates journalized.
journalize, that's what it
Okay,
was.
that's what we're doing.
Is that in the fstab, that user J?
Both of these would be in fstab. See, I have it right here, right at the end of the line that, along with the options. So right after the last option, comma, last, and followed by that.
So you use one or the other, not both of those commands?
Correct,
in the
one or
fstab.
the other. For homework, I'm going to have you do journalized, so you're going to use this one. Okay, but if you were just doing, quota management without setting up journalized quotas, then this is what you would do. Okay, so this creates the database, and then you would need to turn quotas on. Okay, so to do that, you would execute the quota on, one word, and then the petition that you're turning it on for. Okay, so quota, Q-U-O-T-A, /home, because again, I'm assuming that that's the petition you're creating it on. You could also use the device name, but the quota on, so that turns on the quotas. To turn off, you would do quota off /home. So if you needed to turn it off for whatever reason, to perform some maintenance task or whatever, you would use quota off, followed by the petition name. So once all that's done, then you can run reports. You can manage individual accounts. I do have it configured here, so I'm going to go with the first report. Would be rep quota is the command that I can use to view the quotas. -s, just if I don't include the hyphen, rep quota, not rep quota. REPQUOTA. Okay, so notice that there's no, these are bytes. Okay, and if I do the same command with the -s, and we compare the output, you can see that this is showing us the K. This is not OK, this is for kilobytes, so 0 kilobytes. And you can see, although I'm looking at this number, and it's not changing the value, so I think it's just for clarification. Up here as well, you can see the titles change from block units to space units. I think the -s is sometimes referred to as human readable, okay, so that you can see how what that number represents. Is it bytes? Is it kilobytes? Is it megabytes? The K included there, and then space limits evidently is more understandable than block limits. I don't know. Okay, so again, as we can see here, regardless of which method I'm going to use the -s, you can see all of the users. Obviously, I have some users on the system that I've since deleted, and they still have some space on the system, so there's some usage. There's some files or folders stored somewhere on this drive that are owned, if you will, by a user who no longer exists. So you have the UID number. That's why we're seeing these UID numbers at the end, 1106, 1402, and so on. So again, each of these users, we can see Jenny, we can see how much space she's using. We can see that we have, in fact, established file limits for Jenny. So that tells me that she has stored 18 files, her soft limit and her hard limit. Remember what the two indicate. The soft limit simply is you're going to get a warning that says that you have reached a limit, but you'll still be able to create more files on the drive. Up until one of two conditions become true, and that is if you reach the hard limit or if the grace period has elapsed. Now, I've set this grace limit to 2 minutes, so obviously, I think I set it so that we could actually see. This is the same machine that we had used last semester, and I wanted to actually show you how it looked in the database, in the report, when the time had elapsed. So the default, I believe, is like 7 days. Okay. So again, that grace period is if the grace period elapses and you still have not reached the hard limit, then that's okay. Now you can't create anymore. Okay. So again, the hard limit is the true limit, unless of course you reach the if you stored 185 files and that grace period has elapsed, then you're not going to store anymore. If you've created 190 files and the grace period has not elapsed, you still can only store 190 files. The grace period's over, okay? Because it's not necessarily over, but you've reached that max. Okay, so again, you can also modify. So if I wanted to change, if I did ed quota, ed quota, one word, followed by -u in the user. So if I went with Mary here, so that simply opens up that line and you can enter your values. If I wanted to set space limits or inode limits, I could adjust these values by simply typing them here, then saving the file, and those would be the limits for that individual. So you can change those manually. And then you can also change the grace period by using the ed quota -t parameter. So ed quota -t instead of -u. And you can see now it's actually showing you the block grace period as well as the inode grace period. So notice that they are two separate grace periods that you can set different values for. Okay, so you can put 10 days or 10 minutes or whatever. And again, that would be the grace period for the appropriate setting, depending on what limit you set. So that's not what I wanted to do. I want to just run the report one last time so you can see again what that would look like. So you can see the 7 days for the block and the inode was just two minutes. Okay? Questions?